Hello, folks. How are we doing? You are watching live from the studio, the Daily Edition. I am your host, Jimmy Selesky. Happy Wednesday to you. We are back here in the stew on this less than ideal cold and rainy day, but I'm optimistic because it is opening day for the Orioles tomorrow. And this level of rain and weather, cold, miserable weather, is simply unsustainable. I cannot imagine that this could carry on until tomorrow. My friend Gabe says that it was maybe supposed to rain tomorrow, but they're showing it less and less as the day goes on. That is, of course, because weather is always wrong. I don't trust the weather. I think weather is a hoax, as I've mentioned several times on this channel. If any other science were as routinely wrong as meteorologists are, they would not be considered a science. Weather is essentially the psychic hand reading of the science community. It's the astrology, the horoscope of the science community. If I tell you it's going to rain tomorrow, and it does, I'm correct. But here's the catch. If I tell you there's a 50% chance of rain tomorrow, and it doesn't, I was still right. And I know what you're thinking out there. Hypothetical genius person that just heard me say that and cannot wait. And I mean cannot wait. Chomping at the bit to say, actually, when someone says it's a 50% chance of rain, it doesn't literally mean that there is a 50% chance that it will rain tomorrow. What it means is that 50% of the area they're discussing will be covered in rain and the other 50% will not. Well, do you know what that means? Genius person? Incredibly intelligent, divine human being who read something on Reddit, the same thing I did 3 months ago when everybody was talking about that, because none of us knew that, I will admit. But now everyone does know that. And do you know what? That still means 50% chance of rain. It means that if they say Baltimore has a 50% chance of rain, it doesn't matter if they're saying that the entire area of Baltimore will be rained upon with 50% probability, or that 50% of the Baltimore area will have rain. And therefore, if you live in Baltimore, there is a 50% chance that you will live in one of those areas that it rains. 50% chance means 50% chance, regardless of how you slice it. And therefore, if I happen to live in an area of Baltimore that doesn't get rained upon, the weather is still right. The weather is constantly changing throughout the week, throughout the 10-day forecast, all the way up until the present moment. And it is at that present moment that I have found that the weather is about 95% correct. Because sometimes I'll even look at the weather and ask for the weather right now. And it'll be raining, and the weather will say, it's partly sunny. How are you wrong at predicting the present? How are you this bad at your job? I get telling me what the weather tomorrow is going to be like. I could see that being a little iffy. That is, of course, what you claim to be able to do. But you can't tell me what the weather is right now? I can tell you what the weather is right now. Give me 1 second. It's raining. Whoa. Somebody tossed me on channel 11. Anyway, I sure hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. Last year opening day was blown by, believe it or not, Wrong weather. That's correct. Last year on Orioles opening day, which was supposed to be on a Thursday, the genius experts at the Baltimore Weather Lab or wherever they are, the headquarters of weather, predicted that we were going to have a ton of rain. Oh my God, guys, you don't want to be playing baseball tomorrow. It's going to be raining like a lot. We're saying like 105% chance of rain. Like, yeah, totally. No. Postponement much? Yeah. That was the meteorologist last year on opening day. So all my plans of going downtown, being able to pregame outside the stadium, and then once the game begins, because I am a broke piece of shit loser that never actually gets into the game on opening day, I will then proceed to gallivant around Federal Hill and drink in bars with my other broke loser degenerate friends. And I had no gigs that night, and it would have been awesome. But instead they said, no, the weatherman, who is historically always right, as we know, says that you only want to try it tomorrow. So they called the game the night before. They didn't even wait till the morning. How do you not even do that? You call the game the night before? Nobody does that. And then they move it to Friday. Now this sucked because I actually had a gig on Friday. So now that changes the whole complexion of the day. Sure, I can go down there. Sure, I can hang out and drink outside the stadium, venture into Fed, but I got to leave like halfway through the game. And I got to stay like fairly with my wits about me. You know, I got to be able to drive. So it's like, it just kind of kills the whole vibe. And I was pissed. And I was especially pissed because on the Thursday that it would have been the game, I'm sitting in my apartment and it is a beautiful, sunshiny day. Actually, literally, I think that the day that they postponed the game from last year on opening day was, to that point, the most beautiful day of 2023. It was gorgeous. It was like 72 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. It was beautiful. But they called the game the night before, and so the Orioles opening day game gets moved to that Friday, which was a shitty, kind of rainy, wet, damp day. Overcast, spitter spattering of rain, cold. Thanks a lot, weather guys. You've done it again. Oh my God. Can you tell I'm not a big fan of the weather. I don't look at it. I don't look at it. I can't stand a "it's supposed to rain tomorrow" guy. Shut up. What do you know? It's not supposed to do anything tomorrow. You're not even supposed to wake up necessarily. You're just lucky if you do. So why don't you just wake up tomorrow, thank God you're alive, and see what the fuck happens? That's what I think about the weather. Now, speaking of God, there's one thing I actually want to talk about today. There's some things that I could talk about today. But if there's one thing I will tell you about this show, if you're just tuning in for the first time and for some reason have not left, if for some reason your first experience of this show was watching me nonsensically rant about the weather being a hoax, and you're still here, wow. But you should know, before we move forward, that there's a couple things about this show that are important. And I think the main thing is that I believe that just because something happened or is happening, that doesn't mean I have to talk about it. We've discussed on previous shows that if you watch other political news shows, it is their job to talk about the news. In many cases for an hour, 90 minutes, whatever. And so no matter how irrelevant, uninteresting, not a story something is, they have to talk about it. And they have to make it interesting. They have to make it relevant. They have to make it a story. I'm not doing that here. Okay? Today there are a couple things that I could talk about. I could talk about revisiting the P. Diddy raids and see how that's going. I could. Believe me, I could. But I don't think I will. Because as of this moment, I don't think there's anything about that story that I didn't say yesterday that needs to be said today. All the information is very unclear. Is he arrested? Did he leave the country? Is Meek Mill gay? These are questions we need to know. But these questions have not been answered yet. And I will be the first or probably the 11th person to let you know when they are. I could talk about the information coming to light about Steven Crowder's kind of legal battles, I guess, with his now ex-wife and a handful of former employees. I don't know. I mean, look, we'll wait and see what happens. We'll wait and see the information that comes out. I watch Steven on a semi-regular basis. I think his show can be enjoyable at times, and I think his show can be frustrating at times for various reasons. But overall, I do think it's the most well-produced political show on the internet that I've seen, conservative or liberal. I mean, a lot goes into that. They're doing new sketches every day, parody songs, and all kinds of different segments and skits. And it's impressive how much goes into that 1 hour or hour and a half show. Certainly a lot more than goes into this 1 hour, hour and a half show. So I'll give him props for that. And I think overall he's a good content creator that I enjoy from time to time. So we'll see what happens with that. Nothing at this point would surprise me in regards to that whole situation. So I'm just kind of going to sit here and wait. And in the meantime, I'm not going to waste your time or mine talking about something that neither one of us has any clue about, and no one does. We, of course, always on this show get into my most famous segment, I would say. I mean, this segment, you could go up to anybody on the street and say, hey, what's your favorite segment on the Live from the Studio Daily Show with Jimmy Selesky? And they would probably say, the Rook Look. The Rook Look, of course, is where I, Jimmy the Rook Selesky, will bestow upon you my loved, but I would say mostly feared, sports gambling picks of the night. We are looking great over our lifetime. We are now 62 bets in since we began the Daily Show. We are sitting at a positive 13.15 units in the black and a 21.21% yield. So that's pretty good. And if you like the sound of that, then you can, of course, stick around to the end of the show where I will tell you tonight's picks. Or you could skip the show entirely and just read them in the description if you want to be a dick about it. But before we get into that, there is one particular thing that I definitely do want to talk about. And this involves revisiting, in many ways, a topic that we covered on Monday. And that is, of course, Candace Owens' split with the Daily Wire and her rather public, I want to say feud or dispute. It's more than a disagreement at this point, with Ben Shapiro. In particular, the most recent development in this saga of events is the Christ is King debacle. So I'll explain what that means. This came across my desk, I want to say yesterday, and so naturally I didn't address it until today because I like to be 24 hours behind. It's in my nature. Candace Owens tweeted Christ is King like a week ago or something. I can't remember when, most recently. And this, of course, was taken by many to be a jab at Ben Shapiro. who is, as many of you know, as we all know, perhaps the most Jewish person in the world. And that is, of course, the person that she is publicly in a dispute with in regards to her position on the Israel-Palestine conflict. So that kind of lays the groundwork. Candace Owens tweets that Christ is king. Many people see this as a jab towards Ben Shapiro. And here we are. Candace Owens is once again being called an anti-Semite. And we're going to get into kind of the timeline of how all these events transpired. But I think the most important takeaway for you to gather right now at this moment is that in the eyes of many, including Ben Shapiro and what appears to be the entire staff at Daily Wire, Candace Owens is a vicious anti-Semite, and her tweeting, or shall I say, weaponizing of the phrase Christ is king, was a direct anti-Semitic attack on Ben Shapiro. So, two important points of context. First and foremost, let's dive in, because we didn't actually do this on Monday when we discussed this issue. What we actually did was kind of look at the Majority Report, and we attempted to decipher through his terrible, shitty audio to listen to their discussion of the feud. And then we tuned into the Breakfast Club, wake your punk ass up, where we heard their much more reasonable take on the situation. But we did not actually delve into the situation itself here on this show. This show! So, allow me to briefly do that now. First and foremost, we were introduced to the overall fundamental split between Candace and Ben as it pertains to the Israel-Palestine conflict. And that is, of course, that Candace Owens does not believe the killing of any innocent people is something to be celebrated or supported. And Ben Shapiro is very adamantly pro-Israel. And I'm not saying who is right or who is wrong. But Candace, generally, if I had to summarize her stance on the whole thing, is very similar to mine, which is, guys, figure it out. But seriously, can we try to be civil about this? And Ben's take is, if you don't unquestioningly support Israel in every single thing they do at every move, you are a vicious anti-Semite. And again, many of the things that Ben believes to be appropriate moves or things that need to be done or things that should be done, I don't necessarily disagree with. What I do disagree with is his overall arching point, that if you were to happen to disagree with him or anything that Israel does, you are a Jew hater. That I disagree with. And trust me, I do know what Ben thinks needs to be done in Israel and how it should be done and when it should be done, because Ben spends about, I'm going to say, close to 65% of his daily show at this point discussing the Israel conflict, which is kind of alarming considering he does an American news politics show or a global news politics show. But I would figure that probably his audience, being mostly American, is mostly concerned with things that affect us here in America on the domestic front, with obvious occasional touching into foreign policy and other things that we're involved in. But when the Ben Shapiro show becomes 2/3 Israel-Palestine, I don't know. I kind of tune it out. I'm not going to lie. But this is an interview. This is a segment from an interview with Candace Owens, and I just want to demonstrate kind of I want to set the plot here. I want to set the tone here with what Candace Owens is saying versus what people are saying she's saying. So this is a clip from an interview or a podcast, I guess, or whatever, with this guy, Rabbi Barkley. And this is them discussing Candace Owens referring to Rabbi Shmuley, which has got to be the most Jewish name ever named. His daughter, she refers to her as a hag. Now, we're going to get into Rabbi Shmuley as well. But this man, Rabbi Michael Barkley, another rabbi, asserts that Candace Owens using the term hag to describe Rabbi Shmuley's daughter is anti-Semitic. So let's take a look at that.
Candace, if he attacked you personally, if he said you were a black fill in the blank, then he should be reprimanded that, but it doesn't justify what you did. You don't know what a rabbi does. You don't know our theology. How dare you call him an unholy rabbi? How dare you go into the misogynistic, the anti-Semitic trope of his hag daughter, something used throughout the late 18th and early through the early 20th century.
Sorry. Hag is now anti-Semitic?
That is a term of his hag daughter that goes back into the witches of Eastern Europe. Why did you have to call her a hag daughter?
Just to be clear, because she's a witch. I think she's a witch. That's not because she's Jewish. I would call someone a hag of any color. I think she's a witch. What they have done over the last 2 years. I believe his daughter is a hag. I said that because that's what I believe. You may disagree with me on that, but to say that that's anti-Semitic is ridiculous. I would call any person a hag.
Candace, I'm going to be very clear without trying to be insulting. So please forgive me if it comes off wrong. Okay, it's not meant to.
No, it's fine. You can insult me.
I don't want to.
I've dealt with 2 years of a rabbi insulting me, so I'm totally cool with this. Yeah.
I have no desire to insult anybody. Okay? But do you understand, are you familiar with the history of the Grimm fairy tales and the folk tales of Eastern Europe?
I know that we can go back and we can also say
No. I'm asking a specific question.
Okay.
That the witch archetype of those fairy tales were specifically modeled and called the Jews. That the Jews of that part of the world were called hags and witches specifically because they didn't eat the same food. They had different practices, and they were excluded that way as part of the bloodline.
So you are saying that we can
by calling a rabbi's daughter a witch, a hag daughter, you have tapped into an anti-Semitic trope that goes back hundreds of years, whether you mean to or not.
We talked about 6 degrees of hate speech last week, I believe, where if you wanted to, you could draw a connection between anything that anyone says and how that could lead to inciting violence. Well, this appears to be 6 degrees of anti-Semitism, where we can sit down and if we want to characterize you as an anti-Semite, we will. If we don't like what you have to say, if what you have to say goes against Israel or whatever they're trying to do over there in any way, or you criticize someone who does push that, we won't address your point. In many cases, we won't address why what you're saying is wrong. Similar to how Don Lemon did not address anything that Elon was saying as wrong or right. He simply just attacked Elon's character and tried to paint him as a bad person. We will simply cast you aside as an anti-Semite. It's driven into your brain. This person hates Jews. This person hates Jews. This person hates Jews. Why? Give me an example of how this person hates Jews. Specifically, can we be specific? Because so far I've heard that she does not support the killing of Palestinian children. Okay. Waiting. And then she refers to somebody who has been basically in a back and forth, maybe even not as famous because Ben Shapiro is much more of a figure than Rabbi Shmuley. But she'd been going back and forth with this guy for quite some time, and also his daughter, and she refers to her as a hag. And now we're going to be educated by Rabbi Barkley as to how actually 400 years ago, when the grim tales of the Wicked Witch of the Forest or whatever were written, Hansel and Gretel or whatever, that hag is actually an anti-Semitic. Maybe it was. Maybe it was. I don't know. To be honest, I didn't know that. But that's not what she meant. She didn't mean you Jewish witch. She meant you witch. And it kind of seems like, I don't know, a little slimy to sit there and try to cast what someone says as hateful, which, okay, yeah, calling someone a witch is kind of hateful, but so is calling someone an anti-Semite. And we're going to get into that in a bit. Because I ultimately do want to get back to this Christ is King thing. And that whole debacle. I'm setting the tone here. I'm setting a tone that people are now, anyone who says anything that they don't appreciate, and that is the pro-Israel movement, not specifically Jews. Because there's plenty of Jewish people that are not pro-Israel. But one of the major weapons on that side of the argument is to cast aside anyone who says anything counter to the pro-Israel agenda as a Jew hater. And I don't support that. And this is something that's being done by people like Ben Shapiro, who I've said several times on this show, I watch on a daily basis. Literally a daily basis. He's probably my primary source of daily news commentary. I don't hate Jews. I don't hate Ben Shapiro. I disagree with him in his approach to the Israeli conflict. I don't even necessarily disagree with him on his actual prescription for the Israeli conflict. I just don't appreciate his approach. Like I said earlier, that if you were to happen to not agree with him, that would be not because you disagree with him, but because you hate Jews. And that's the only topic that he'll ever use that line of thinking. He would never say that if you had any critiques about crime in the black community, that's secretly because you just hate black people. If you mention any type of overrepresentation or underrepresentation in the gay community, the trans community, that wouldn't be because you're homophobic or transphobic. That would be because you're just stating facts, and facts don't care about your feelings. But if you have any criticism about Israel or God forbid, just the Jewish community, you hate Jews. And that's not fair. And it's not fair that that is being able to be wielded as this kind of Uno draw 17 card. This kind of all play, just completely destroy anything you have to say, any criticism, anything, out of fear of being labeled as an anti-Semite. That's a horrible thing to do. When you accuse someone of being a hateful, bad person, that shouldn't be taken lightly. I don't believe Candace Owen hates Jewish people. I don't even believe that these people believe that Candace Owen hates Jewish people. Necessarily. I think Ben does. But I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think this guy does, though. I don't think that this guy actually thinks that her calling this other dude's daughter a hag is actually anti-Semitic. I think that he is using that to invalidate her opinion on the larger issue at hand. I think he is finding ways to paint her as an anti-Semite when he knows very well that she did not mean that in a Jewish context. And he also knows very well that no one interprets that in a Jewish context, including myself. But because he can play 6 degrees of anti-Semitism, he can connect those dots and invalidate her opinion and her as a person. So let's talk about Rabbi Shmuley. And let's look at this video. So Rabbi Shmuley is another guy that has basically just been referring to Candace Owens as an anti-Semite. And this video is actually, I want to say, actually rather disturbing. It's like kind of like creepy in a way. But this is Rabbi Shmuley. I guess this is a major owning of Candace Owens. This is his Purim costume, which I guess is like the Jewish Halloween or whatever. So this is him calling out Candace, whatever. Let's see.
Hi, everybody. Purim is a day of celebration. We feel bad for Candace Owens that she lost her job. So I figure with her image of what Jews are supposed to look like, why not at least validate her? I am dressed up as a Candace Owens Jew. Now, this is not a Christian child, this is a Jewish child. But if it would be, I got my Christian blood. Spicy, delicious. I got my Jewish nose. I have filth, because Jews are all filth. And more than anything else, what does 80 have? Money! Yeah, we Jews are all about money!
All about the Benjamins.
Wait, one second, wait. All about the Benjamins. Wait, I'm getting a little bit thirsty. Where's the matzah? I don't want to finish the whole thing and not mix it into the matzah. So can someone just bring me? She did say, one second, she did say that I was getting, she liked that tweet that I'm getting drunk on Christian blood. So let's do it right.
L'chaim.
Oh, so good. So good. V'nafuchu, Purim is a day that our enemies fall, my brothers and sisters. This is the way they want us to look. I'll do it for one night. I'll indulge them. If it floats their boat,
Where's
why
your
not?
horns? Where's
Oh,
your
my
horns?
horn! They're covered by my yarmulke.
Ah.
Okay, happy Purim, everybody.
Is that not like a little disturbing? Like it's like beyond cringe. Like cringe is one thing. It's like, dude, what are you doing? I don't know who you think you're owning right now. It's just bad on all fronts. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I found this offensive. I didn't find it offensive. I found it disturbing. One level beyond cringe. And this is you know how I like to talk about when things become physically manifested and it makes it clearer? What you just witnessed with this dude, this fucking creep, honestly a fucking creep, is the physical manifestation of how opinions like those held by Candace Owens, reasonable opinions and criticisms, are then exaggerated and mischaracterized as anti-Semitism. He just dressed up as what he, I guess, I don't think that, again, I think that this guy is an example of someone who doesn't actually think that Candace Owens thinks this about Jews, but he wants you to think that this is what she thinks about Jews. And so he has dressed up as this cartoonish version of a, like, I don't know, derogatory stereotype of a Jew. And that's what he's doing physically to mischaracterize Candace Owens' opinions. So now you get to watch the physical version of just how exaggerated the mischaracterization of someone like Candace Owens is. When you say something along the lines of anything that it goes against the pro-Israel agenda or narrative, and they call you an anti-Semite, that guy that you just saw is the physical manifestation of how over-exaggerated they are making you as a person. They are trying to take your honest, reasonable opinion and turn it into this caricature of anti-Semitism, because that's how they intend to win the argument. And when I say they, I'm not talking about Jews necessarily. I'm talking about pro-Israel, tend to be mostly on the conservative side. I feel like conservatives are more pro-Israel. Liberals are more pro-Palestine. And I'm sitting here, again, I'm not on either side. Because we are going to get into this Christ is King thing, and let's get into it now. So Candace Owens did tweet Christ is King in the midst of this public feud with not just Daily Wire, but most notably Ben Shapiro. Specifically Ben Shapiro. Now, she also tweeted Christ is King in November, before this was a thing, a feud. I mean, this was after October 7th, of course, but I don't think at that point there was any type of dispute between Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. So I think her tweeting Christ is King in November of 2023 could not have been a reasonably determined to be a jab at Ben. But people are speculating that this most recent one is. And so if you go online and you listen to everyone that's discussing this, you're going to have some people say, this is clearly, her tweeting Christ is King is a jab at Ben Shapiro because Ben Shapiro is a Jew and she knows that and she knows people know that. And so she's antagonizing him and provoking him by tweeting Christ is King because she knows that everyone's going to know that she's saying that to him. So this is an anti-Semitic attack. And then you have other people come into Candace Owens' defense saying, what, you can't just tweet Christ is King? All of a sudden, if I say Christ is King, it's anti-Semitic? So what? Okay, yeah, sure, she's in the middle of a feud with Ben Shapiro, but, she tweeted Christ is King. What, you can't do that? Now we have to say that that's an attack on Ben Shapiro? And so those are the two takes you hear. One side saying this clearly was a jab at Ben Shapiro, an anti-Semitic jab at Ben Shapiro. And the other side saying she was just innocently tweeting Christ is King, and this had nothing to do with Ben Shapiro, and you're trying to turn it into an anti-Semitic thing. And here's a take you haven't heard yet. I don't think, because I haven't heard this take, and I don't know why. And that take is, yeah, it probably was a jab at Ben Shapiro, if we're being honest. And who fucking cares? Let me repeat that again. Her tweeting Christ is King probably was a jab at Ben Shapiro. She probably did think about the fact that people would interpret it that way, and that's probably why she tweeted it at that time. And again, who fucking cares? Why do I say who fucking cares? That's a horrible thing, right? You just tweeted Christ is king as a subtweet, as a passive aggressive jab at another major Jewish commentator. What do you mean, who cares? This is horrible. I disagree. You know what's horrible? Calling someone a disgrace, calling someone a hateful, bigoted anti-Semite for no other reason but the fact that they happen to disagree with you on policy. You know what's horrible? Is not necessarily ever addressing the actual specific things that a person says and debating the validity of those statements and opinions, but rather just using the hammer of character assassination to cast aside and bully into fear anyone who disagrees with you. Destroying their reputation, leading to them losing their job, and so forth. That's pretty horrible. Why is it that someone tweeting Christ is king, even if it is a subtle jab at the person that you're in a feud with who happens to be Jewish, why is that the line? You are an anti-Semite. Do you know what that means? It means that you are not a good person. You are a hateful person. You hold hate in your heart for Jewish people. You like the fact that they're suffering. You want to see more suffering. You don't want to see them not suffer. That's a horrible thing. You know what's not nearly that horrible? Sorry, bro, my religion's right, yours is wrong. That's essentially what you're saying, right? If I said Christ is king to a Jewish person, even if it was, just as like, hey, buddy, guess what? Christ is king. I'm essentially just saying, hey, buddy, guess what? My religion is right, yours is wrong. Is it surprising to that person that I think that? Is that not what we are fundamentally all saying when we practice a religion? If I'm a Jewish person and I practice Judaism, I'm a practicing Jewish person. Am I not at my fundamental holding in my heart a belief that Judaism is the correct religion and Christianity is not correct? And if I am a Christian person, a practicing Christian, am I not fundamentally holding in my heart the belief that Christianity is correct, that Jesus is the way, and that Judaism is in fact the wrong religion? And if I'm Muslim, am I not holding in my heart that both of you motherfuckers are wrong and it's actually Allah and Muhammad? I mean, is that not what it means to hold a belief system? Is that you are inherently stating that the other belief systems are not the correct belief systems, or else you'd just be every religion. And that's not possible. You can't be a Christian while also believing that every other religion is also correct. Then you're not a Christian. You're just a guy who really respects religions and doesn't want to step on anybody's toes, which is fine, but that doesn't make you a Christian. If you also believe that Vishnu with 6 arms exists and all this other stuff. We already understand at a baseline level that a fundamental point of disagreement between a Christian and a Jewish person is the dispute over whether or not Christ is king. So I have not brought anything new into the conversation by stating that in your direction. However, you calling me a hateful, bigoted anti-Semite has introduced a new level into the conversation. You have crossed the line. And it's amazing. It is amazing. It's amazing to me that that is the line. that you could completely destroy someone's public image or attempt to do so. But if they even make even the minorest of passive-aggressive remarks in your direction as it pertains to your religion and how they believe that their religion is correct and yours isn't, that's the line. Oh, you just crossed the line. I know I just called you a horrible piece of shit, but how dare you suggest that you believe your religion is correct and mine is not? That's what every person who practices a religion believes. Again, we have not introduced anything new to the equation. If a Muslim person came up to me and said, hey, Allahu Akbar, basically saying, hey, buddy, you know, Christians are wrong, Muslims are right, all glory to Allah, I'd say, okay, dude, I don't know about all that. And also, scoreboard, okay? Let's take a look at the numbers. Let's look at the stats and see who's the glory going to here. That's not invalidating my existence. You can, again, here's the point. Jewish people, Muslim people, Christian people, Hindu people, etc., can all coexist. And they all fundamentally disagree with each other on the nature of our existence in their religious practices. That does not equal hate. If I say I don't agree with your version of the meaning of life and why we're here and what and who God is and who was the Messiah, that's not hate. But again, any criticism of certain groups of people is immediately and automatically hate. And it immediately bypasses anything that that person has said to you. If I was in an argument and somebody said, your mother's a fucking slut, you fucking fat piece of broke shit, you dumb idiot, short, no job, money, stupid ass podcast having ass loser motherfucker, hateful, racist, bigot piece of shit. And if I so much as said, whatever, dude, get your Jewish ass out of here. Ah! Ah! Anti-Semite! Anti-Semite! I just called him a broke piece of shit, fat, stupid, idiot, short, mother, slut, but he called me Jewish. You have crossed the line, mister. You have crossed the line. I disagree. I disagree. Christ is king. I believe that. And it's not hateful for me to say that. Maybe it was a jab. But you know what else is a jab? A jab is existing in a country that is not Israel as a Christian in America and the West as a whole, and being told that if you don't side wholeheartedly with either the Israelis or the Palestinians, if you don't side wholeheartedly with the Palestinians, you are Islamophobic, you don't care about the Palestinian people, you don't care about a genocide. If you criticize anything that they do, and if you criticize anything that Israel does, and do not wholeheartedly support everything that Israel does, then you are an anti-Semite, you are a Jew hater. And the Christians are sitting here like, dude, figure it the fuck out. You're bullying us into having to support you or having to support them in your conflict and telling us that if we don't support you wholeheartedly, that we're a bad person, that we're a hateful person, that is a jab. That I'm not allowed to just exist and mind my fucking business without being called an anti-Semite or an Islamophobe. That's a jab. You know what else is a jab? Existing in a country or a civilization that was founded in Christianity. I don't want to fucking hear it today. I really don't. I don't want to hear it today. Actually, the founding fathers were deists. Shut up. You know what deist is? A deist back then is the same as when you talk to a person now, oh, I'm actually not religious, I'm spiritual. Shut up. All these guys that we're referring to as deists. Sure, they were deists. Deists still obviously believe in the idea of a God separate from nature that is watching over us. The Abrahamic God. Remember, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are all Abrahamic religions. We all believe in that same God. Allah is the same God as what we call God, or what the Jewish refer to as Yahweh. It's the same guy, just a different name. The difference is, the fundamental, real, biggest differences among many things between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, the three Abrahamic religions, is that Christians believe Jesus was the Son of God, sent by God to earth to redeem us for our sins. Muslims believe that Muhammad was actually the most important prophet, perhaps the Son of God, I don't know, but more important than Jesus, and he's the guy, Muhammad. And the Jews don't believe the Messiah has come yet. They don't believe that Jesus or Muhammad or anybody else was the Son of God. So we all agree on God. We just kind of disagree on the details. And the founding fathers believed in God as well. Sure, as they got older, some of them, not all of them, not even most of them, began to kind of formulate their own idea of God, venturing a little bit out of the realm of necessarily the limitations of Christianity, sure. But these are people who were raised and steeped in Christian religion and morality. They are more well-read on the Christian religion and the Bible and Scripture and all the above than the average person who claims to be a Christian today. They come from a civilization across the ocean, England, in Europe. All of Western civilization does not exist as we know it without Christianity. This goes without saying. And it goes without saying that America itself is a Christian nation. There is a country where Jews and Muslims exist peacefully together. It ain't Israel. Not the Jewish nation. It ain't anywhere in the Middle East that I can think of, not the Muslim nations. It's the Christian nations. Why? Because Western Christian civilization laid down the groundwork for the most prosperous and free societies that the world has ever known. And that is why people from other civilizations leave their own country, where everyone practices their religion, everyone speaks their language, and they say, fuck all that. I'm going to America. I'm going to England. I'm going to the West. And instead of saying, hey, buddy, hey, guys, you know what? Christianity is not all that bad. I mean, you got some good stuff going on here. Thanks. No. Instead, Christianity is the only religion that it is socially acceptable to consistently shit on, and nobody cares. Jesus can be mocked. Christians mocked. Catholic Church is, of course, the only religious institution that can ever be discussed their flaws, because I'm sure nobody in institutional Judaism has ever done anything sketchy. Now, of course, we all know that there's nothing in institutional Islam that was worthy of criticism. It's merely just the Catholic Church, of course. We know this. The only flawed religion that has ever existed is the Catholic Church. And you just have to sit back and fucking take that. All day, every day, you have to be told that the countries that all exist in the world where people have the most rights, the most freedoms, the most advanced nations in the world, that people trip over themselves and die just in an effort to have a chance to live here, are actually the worst places. And Christianity is the worst thing. And you suck. And this country has nothing to do with Christianity. And actually, God is the problem. Your God and your religion is the problem. Is that not a jab? Is that not a constant fucking every fucking day? I think it is a little bit of a jab. Almost an anti-Christian jab. That's not even a word. Even the fact that that's not even a word that people take seriously is also kind of a jab. Doesn't matter. You don't get to say you feel as if you're being hated upon. You don't get to think that. You're a Christian. You're supposed to get that, you piece of shit. Fuck you. Well, I got a better idea. How about fuck you? How about you're welcome? How about you're welcome for ending slavery, not starting it? Rest of the world. Other countries on the planet that are still doing this shit to this day, and ain't none of them Christian. You're welcome. You're welcome for creating the Western civilization that everyone and their mother wants to be a part of. You're welcome for creating civilizations and societies that are more hospitable to you than your own fucking country. You're welcome. No. Instead, you're a piece of shit. This beautiful civilization that we all enjoy and take part in has nothing to do with any of your values. In fact, it's in spite of your values. It's thanks to everyone else except you. You're what's wrong with this country, not what's right. And so you watch your religion, your God, be constantly criticized, constantly mocked on a daily basis, and you're told that other people's problems are more important than your own because you don't have problems. You're not allowed to feel attacked. You're not allowed to feel like you in any way could have ever been victimized or dismissed. No, you don't get that. The only way you can prove your worth is by supporting this person's cause or that person's cause. And slowly we've watched, really, God be removed from society. And slowly we've watched Christianity, which, like it or not, was and primarily still continues to be the fabric of this country. It does. It does. I'm tired of saying it isn't. It's not hateful to say that. It's just fucking true. And I'm glad it's true. And it's not hateful to say that either. I'm glad it's true in other countries that their religion is primary fabric or whatever. And that's not saying that you don't belong here if you're not Christian. In fact, it's a Christian ideal in and of itself to believe that you still belong here despite the fact that you're not Christian. That's not something you see in every religion. And I've been thinking, why is it that specifically Christianity is the religion that it's okay to mock, that is constantly being pulled out and disrespected? And you know what I think it is? We'll go down a little conspiracy rabbit hole for a second. I think it's because Christianity is probably the most unifying thing that we have as a people in this country. It unites white people, black people, Latino people, Asian people, many of them. Really, the only demographic of people in this country that are not unified by Christianity in terms of race, primarily, are Muslim people. And they get it. They're like, okay, yeah, we fuck with it. Cool. I mean, we don't celebrate Christmas and shit, but knock yourself out. But the majority of white people are Christian. The majority of black people are Christian. The majority of Latino people are Christian. A significant portion of Asian people are Christian, from what I understand. And so Christianity is that thing that kind of transcends all of our differences. It's the thing that unites us, really. The one common core value system that every race of people shares in common. And that's been taken away. It's being picked at. And I think on purpose, because they don't want you to have something that unites you. When I say they, I mean the people that crave control. I don't mean the Jews. I mean the political powers that be that benefit from a divided country who seeks nothing other and serves no other purpose than pleasure seeking and, low vibrational pursuits. A form of self-worship. Our God is being replaced by self-worship, where identity is the new religion. You're not a white guy who has a love and fear of God in common with a black man, with an Asian man, with a Latino man, with this person, with that person. No, you're a black trans person, and you're a Lebanese bisexual neurodivergent this person, and you're a straight white male, and you're a gay white male with impetigo. And everybody, it's all about who you are and how the world needs to change to better serve you. And it's no longer about how you can improve yourself to better serve the world, aka God. And so in removing that thing that unifies us all and replacing it with self-worship, self-seeking goals, I'm going to sit there and just fucking scroll through my phone and get another dopamine rush. And I'm going to go out here and pursue more sex, more drugs, more hedonistic pleasures, more this, more that, instant gratification. No higher values, no idea of morality. No idea of a purpose to life beyond just fucking fulfilling whatever immediate desires you have at the moment. That is a population that's easier to control. So we have watched our God be chipped away at and replaced with no God. While being told that it was really our God that was the problem all along, and we've made it better now that you guys are out of the picture. And guess what? That's a fucking jab. And it's okay to speak about that. A, because it's what I believe, And you can go fuck yourself if you have a problem with that. And what I believe is that Christ is king. Okay? Simple as that. Doesn't mean I hate you. It doesn't mean you got to hate me. But don't try to tell me who I am. I know who I am. And in the words of Tupac Shakur, only God can judge me. Folks, let's dip into the Rook look, baby. What am I talking about? Come on, man. Who cares about all that? You know what really matters? Sports gambling, folks. That is why we're here. That is the true purpose in life. That is what will find you true and eternal happiness, is hitting that sweet, sweet lock for a massive payout. And the only way you're ever going to achieve that state of nirvana, that everlasting, immortal life at the right hand of the Father, is by locking in the Warriors Magic over 217.5 tonight at 7:10 p.m. That is correct, folks. I have just given you the path to heaven. And it starts on FanDuel with a 25% or 30% or something live boost, NBA live boost, and also on Fanatics, new reliable, with their daily 25% profit boost. Throw both of those on the Golden State Warriors Orlando Magic game tonight. We are taking over 217.5. I have no idea why that line is that low. I don't know. Average points per game in the NBA this season are sitting about 229 a game. I expect this game to score more than average. Both of these teams play a fairly fast pace. For whatever reason, again, all the total lines for every NBA game seems to be low tonight. Is there something going on? Is it like National Don't Play That Hard Day? Is it All-Star Week round 2? Why is it that every game is projected to be below average scoring tonight? Is it because it's a Wednesday and just nobody gives a fuck? I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and bet against Vegas anyway. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but Christ is king, okay? Christ is king. Speaking of king, the Kings did lose last night. We had them money line versus the Clippers. They lost by a respectable 36 points, 96 to 132. So while Christ is king, Sacramento is not king, at least not last night. So that was a 1-unit loss. We were due for losing. I mean, come on. What, are we going to win every bet? Am I king? No. We lose sometimes. We're still over 13 units in the positive with a over 21% positive yield after over 60 bets. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Anyway, tonight, I intend to win a bit. And I intend to double down with the FanDuel and Fanatics boosts, both going on the Warriors Magic over 217.5. Folks, happy Wednesday. Looking forward to opening day tomorrow and the show beforehand, as well as the Friday show. And of course, the reason we're here in the first place, the LFTS podcast with Eric Glazer and myself, hits you every Saturday afternoon, including this Saturday. So 6 days a week of content on this channel, Monday through Saturday. My name is Jimmy Selesky. Please, if you like what you hear, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, whatever you got to do. You know the drill, hopefully. And if not, then you better learn today. Till next time, folks. Peace.